some months ago, but we still believe that there should be an exclusion for geoengineering technologies for any of the enhancement measures that are envisaged under this new technology body, and that there should be means of assessment and also of precaution. We are also advocating that in the absence of any proper international governance regime, there be an immediate moratorium and very strictly enforced on real-world experimentation. We cannot have different corporations and different countries running around trying to modify the global system on an experimental basis. The consequences of doing so would be most serious. So thank you very much for your attention, and after we present the other report, we'll take some questions on that.
We do have a few minutes for questions to the presenters. Yes, please. And there's a microphone coming here.
Hi, I'm Bill Marsden from the Montreal Gazette. I was just curious, Diana, what essentially is wrong with developing geoengineering technology, given the fact that science says we could be looking at some disastrous climate situations in the future?
There's many reasons, I think, that are wrong with it. And if you look on page 34 in box 6, we've offered a summary. So, you know, really, just because we have the capacity to develop something in science doesn't necessarily mean we have to do it. We believe that because geoengineering technologies are by definition large scale, that they pose inevitably serious problems of control over who will develop those technologies, who will own the patents, who will have the hardware and the software to deploy them. It is giving the possibility to a very small group of people or corporations or countries to intervene on the planetary climate system on behalf of the rest of the world. And the countries and the peoples that are in the front lines in the fight against climate change and who are already suffering the impacts will have very little to say about how those technologies will be developed and how they will be deployed. There's also questions around existing international law, and there's a question of human error. I mean, who is going to so-called control the thermostat? Who is going to decide where exactly those sulfates should be deployed? Who is going to decide whether or not a company has permission to dump iron in the oceans? All of these international rules are not developed. And to move ahead with research and experimentation and investment, and to have this also be distorted by a speculative search for carbon credits, we consider very, very dangerous.
So if you did put proper regulations in place on an international basis, would you be satisfied to go ahead with geoengineering, at least theoretical development of it? Or I'm not quite sure I clearly understand at what point you do not agree with all of this.
All right, so then let me be clear. We think geoengineering is a bad idea. We do not think that that is the way to resolve the climate crisis that we're in. So that as a general statement. In terms of research and modeling, whatever scientists want to do in their computers, they can go ahead and do. However, when it comes to experimentation on the real world, and in particular on the commons of the oceans and the atmosphere, that should not be allowed to go ahead without international rules in place. And what kind of international rules? We can no longer live with an ad hoc patchwork of international rules. We need a global governance and global regulation of these technologies. We need a process under the auspices of the United Nations that will bring those questions forward. We need all countries involved. It needs to be transparent, it needs to involve civil society, it needs to involve the scientific community, and it needs to involve the people who are suffering firsthand the impacts of climate change.
I think we have time for at least one more question.
Perhaps just invite people to take the publication.
Yes. Please.
I guess I have a sort of political question. I mean, one thing that struck me, I guess in both presentations, but particularly with Diana's presentation, is the extent to which climate policy and policy especially that relates to some of these geoengineering technologies is effectively being developed around us, and it's being developed in a sense by stealth. In a sense, it's being developed in plain view. I mean, you're doing your report, you can go out and find who's getting the patents, what the scientists are experimenting with, they're talking about, and so forth. So in a sense, it's going on in plain view. Yet, as you point out, the degree to which even negotiators comprehend what's going on under their noses is very much in doubt. It strikes me that this is a pattern we've seen before in the development of UN climate policy. I mean, for the last 12 years, we've seen the development of a massive carbon trading system as the mainstream approach to global climate policy. And in a sense, this has been developed in plain view. All the documents are available, and so forth. And the discussion, you can find the information about carbon trading if you look for it. Yet even negotiators here at the UN, I think very many of them, do not understand what has been going on in the last 12 years, such that in effect a lot of climate policy is now passing into the hands of Wall Street, because they are beginning to dominate this market, which started here at the UN 12 years ago. And it strikes me that the same kind of political process is happening with geoengineering. It's going on under our noses, yet if you go out and ask people on the street, what's going on with these technical attempts to fix the climate, they won't know. Just as if you ask people on the street, what is mainstream climate policy, what is carbon trading, most people don't know. And it's very difficult for them to find. My question is, given this new kind of political reality of the development of policy in plain view, yet no one knows about it, what are the political organizing necessities in order for the public to get a grip on what's going on, and in order for the public to begin to take more of a role in deciding, whether we really want to have these, private geoengineering technologies being developed for private use under our noses? I mean, what kind of political organizing is possible given these new political realities?
We're out of time, and I just say as a concluding comment then that what we might see is that the role that market mechanisms played in Kyoto will see technology play in Copenhagen. And I'm afraid we're out of time. We'd be happy to answer questions after.
And thank you very much, everyone. And please do pick up the publications, take a few, spread them around, and you can also download them on the web, of course. Thanks very much for coming and listening and engaging. Thanks.
Publications are on the table.